All right, let's talk about artificial intelligence. You hear that term, everywhere you turn. But what does it actually mean? Today, we're going to cut right through all the hype. We'll break down what it is, how it learns, and you'll see it's probably a much bigger part of your life than you even realize. So let's just dive right into the big question. The one that's at the very heart of the whole AI conversation. Are machines, are they really on the verge of thinking for themselves? I mean, it's a huge idea, right? And it gets people just as excited as it does, well, a little nervous. Well, the truth is, the AI we have today isn't quite what you see in the movies. We're not talking about self-aware, super creative robots, at least not yet. The reality is that today's AI is incredibly powerful, but in a totally different way. It's all about expertly imitating human judgment and behavior. Okay, so to really get a handle on where we are now, we've got to look back at the original dream, the core ambition that's been driving this whole field from the very beginning. And what was that dream? Well, at its core, the ultimate goal of AI has always been to create machines that do more than just crunch numbers. The idea was to build something that could reason, learn, and even create. A lot like we do. And that single idea has been the engine for researchers for decades. So that's the dream, right? But how do you actually teach a machine to learn? It's a great question, because the process is completely different from how we build, say, traditional software. Okay, think of it like this. Traditional computer code, it's rigid. It's like a recipe you have to follow exactly. It's a one-way street of instructions. But an AI model, that's totally different. It's dynamic. It works in this constant feedback loop, always tweaking itself to get better and better over time. And that process, that's what we call training the model, and it's basically the engine of all modern AI. It all starts with an algorithm, and you just feed it a ton of data. Then, based on feedback about how well it's doing, the model just refines its own approach over and over again, getting a little bit smarter with every single cycle. Now, you can probably imagine, that kind of training takes an absolutely massive amount of computing power. And honestly, it just wouldn't be possible without the cloud. The cloud gives us that immense on-demand power. And what that's done really is take AI out of these super exclusive research labs and put these incredible tools into the hands of pretty much anyone. Okay, so it's important to remember that AI isn't just one single thing. It's much more like a big family of related technologies. So let's go ahead and meet some of the key members of the AI family. First up, we've got the big one, machine learning, or ML for short. You can think of this as the real engine room of modern AI. It's all about using statistics to find patterns in data, which lets a computer learn from experience instead of needing a programmer to spell out every single step. Now, a really important part of machine learning is something called deep learning. This is a more specialized version that uses these super complex things called neural networks, and they're actually inspired by the human brain. This is what lets AI get really good at analyzing messy stuff like images, video, and sound. Then we have natural language processing, or NLP. And this is basically the magic that lets us talk to our gadgets. Seriously, anytime you ask Siri a question or tell Alexa to play a song, you're using NLP. It's what helps the machine understand what you're saying and then figure out how to respond. And rounding out our core family members is computer vision. This is the one that basically gives AI its eyes. It uses both machine learning and deep learning to understand the visual world, everything from identifying a face in a photo to making a super close call in a sports game. Okay, so that's all the theory. But where does this stuff actually show up in the real world? Well, the short answer is pretty much everywhere. Let's take a look at all the ways you're likely using AI every single day, maybe without even thinking about it. I mean, think about it. Every time you ask your phone for the weather, or you use one of those customer service chatbots on a website, that's AI. When your phone's autocorrect saves you from a typo, or when Netflix suggests the perfect movie for you. Yep, that's AI too. It has just completely woven itself into our digital lives. Let's dig into one of the most exciting types of AI right now, something called generative AI. This is the kind of AI that doesn't just analyze things, it actually creates new stuff. And it all starts with a simple instruction from a user, what we call a prompt. So, for example, you could just ask it to create a logo for a friendly barbecue company. And just like that, the AI can generate a totally new image from scratch. That's the incredible power of generative AI. It's not just looking at data that's already there, it's mashing it all together to create something brand new and original. It could be an image, a story, you name it, even computer code. Now, on the flip side of creating new things, we have what's called predictive AI. And just like the name says, this is all about figuring out what's going to happen next. It looks at enormous piles of old data to make really smart guesses, things that can protect your credit card from fraud or even just suggest what you're about to type into a search bar. But as powerful and amazing as all this is, AI is not perfect, not by a long shot. And it brings with it a whole set of really unique and complex challenges that we absolutely need to be aware of. One of the biggest technical problems is something called AI drift. This is basically when a model that used to be really good suddenly starts getting things wrong. And it often happens because the world changes and the new data it's seeing is different. Or maybe the data it learned from in the first place was bad. Which brings us to a classic saying in the world of computers, and it has never been more true than it is for AI. Garbage in, garbage out. It's that simple. If you train a model on bad, biased, or just plain wrong data, you're going to get bad, biased, and wrong results. The output is only ever as good as the input. And this leads to some really big questions for all of us. We have to start thinking seriously about things like job displacement. What happens to jobs that AI can automate? And what about the huge privacy issues around things like facial recognition? And we just have to accept the fact that AI can, and absolutely does, make mistakes. We simply can't afford to trust it blindly. So, this all brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? Artificial intelligence is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful tools humanity has ever created. The real challenge now is for us. Are we smart enough to use it wisely? Are we going to guide it in a way that's good for everyone? That's the big question, and the one I'll leave you with to think about. Thanks for tuning in.